Quick thing before we get started. If you disappeared from your agency for 30 days, no calls, no emails, no Slack, would it survive? Would it thrive? Would it decline? If you hesitated, I get it. I spent 12 years building my agency, and for the most part of that, I was actually the ceiling. Every decision, every client, every fire, all me. I wrote a book about what actually needed to change. It's called Operator to Owner, and it lays out the 5 identity shifts every founder has to make to stop being that bottleneck. So go to operator2ownerevolution.com. That's operator2ownerevolution.com and grab your copy. You're listening to the Smart Agency Masterclass with me, Jason Swank, and we're bringing you this episode courtesy of our friends at Wix Studio. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Hey, Hope, welcome to the show.
So my name is Hope Horner, and I run a video content agency called Lemonlight, and we make, in a nutshell, commercials for brands all over the world.
Cool. How'd you get
into
it?
In 2014, we had an idea that if we could make video content affordable and accessible, that we thought people would buy it. And this was back in the day when the only kind of online videos that existed were, first of all, basically YouTube pre-rolls. And then even those were reserved. Any kind of creative budget was very expensive, required big creative teams. So the SMB market was really kind of pushed out of that arena. And so we had a hunch that it was going to continue to be more and more important. So we thought, okay, how can we make it affordable and accessible? And we did.
Yeah. Well, I think you're skipping over a lot because like you made it seem really easy. Like, let's kind of start from how you were telling me the pre-show you had over 200 employees. How long did it take you to get to that? And walk me through some of the stages that you went through.
I'll start at the beginning. Started in a bedroom for a while. Slowly grew the company year over year and sort of scaled headcount alongside of that. Some of the early phases, like when we first launched the company, we were doing kind of a bunch of your traditional marketing agency services. So we were doing paid advertising, we were making websites, we were doing social media, but our core business was always in video creation. And a couple years in, we realized that we're really good at making videos. We were maybe not as good at those other pieces. And so in 2017, we made a really big bet that we were going to go all in on video. And so we turned all of those services off pretty much overnight, which was scary. That was hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. Back then was significant for us. And that was, I would say, kind of like phase one, when kind of like phase one ended, was that first kind of big decision where we decided, okay, we're going to go all in on one direction. And then it served us well. It was not easy. Things have been challenging. We're completely self-funded up until a couple of years ago. And so continued to just expand our services within video production specifically. So when we started, we were doing basically just doc style commercials. So you would show up, you would interview the founders and maybe some customers, and that would be the video. We slowly expanded into animated videos. Then it was into even stock footage videos at one point. And then eventually like pure, like truly scripted commercials. So hiring actors, renting locations, much more involved content. And as we started to create more sophisticated content, we started attracting more customers, higher end customers. So today we work mostly with enterprise brands, but that was a very long road to get there. And so I would say that middle road, that middle section was really about kind of honing our service, honing our business model, understanding what unit economics were, because if you're losing money on every video, it doesn't matter how many videos you sell. And so a lot of painful lessons at that time, but also while we were really kind of honing our craft. And then COVID happened. On the other side of COVID, we decided that we were in a pretty good place operationally. And we decided that in order to make, at the time we were making hundreds of videos, but in order to make thousands of videos, we needed a better system to do it. So we ended up hiring an engineering team and building out some software internally that really powers everything that we do today, and allows us to scale a lot more efficiently by giving customers an easier way to manage their projects, giving our team an easier way to understand where every piece is. And I would say the last couple of years have been really focused on operating at a new level, right? So being able to operate more as a tech company or tech enabled service company, while still maintaining the service piece of it, right? Making clients happy, project management, all of the kind of fun pieces of the service agency.
How, I look at every business in kind of five roles that you evolve in, from, operator of doing everything to managing the wrong people because we're all shitty managers, to architect, to building systems so people don't have to come to you and you're not the bottleneck, to CEO, to owner. So where did you play, like, for the, obviously now you're at it, at the top level, but how did you get out of the operator role? Like, take me back there. Like, what were some of the decisions that you made? Because obviously you guys are well past the 8-figure mark and growing very fast, and you can't do
Not.
that all by yourself. So what were some of the things that worked for you?
I'll tell you how I did it. I don't know if I would do it the same way again. Um, but when we started,
Okay.
okay, okay, deal.
Tell us what you would
So
change.
when we
Yeah.
started, you're right. I have two co-founders, which I think is extremely helpful for me. And we sort of owned kind of like broad domains, right? So we kind of oversaw at a very high level different areas. But from there, we were all operating very much within our domain, doing every piece of it, right? Um, the way that we scaled the company was specifically by hiring people that could do the easiest jobs first. More entry level employees, so that they were more affordable for us back then. It was easier to train them because the role was just a lot cleaner. And I would say that's kind of how we grew until eventually we needed more leadership and more an executive team. Um, that is how we did it. What I learned through that process was that once we had the leadership team in place, we ended up hiring in 2022. We ended up hiring like a 12-person like leadership team all inside of a year, which was pure chaos, as I'm sure you can imagine. Yes, we went from 0 to
Are you
12.
serious? Holy,
We
who
didn't know what to
recommended
do.
that?
We were growing really quickly at the time, and like a lot of companies, like we were just trying to throw money and throw bodies at the problem to try and keep up with demand. And it was really messy is the word I would use. Um,
Were all
yeah.
deals, as you were getting those deals, were they all profitable, or were there any dogs in there where you were losing money?
Yeah, there were
From
definitely
that look,
some.
I'll
I
take there's a
mean, there were
couple.
definitely some that were not profitable. But for the most part, most of them were, but just not that much back then. So, um, especially when, we were, again, like w- we've never said no to a client, meaning like we've never turned away a client. We've always said, yes, we'll sign you up and we will figure it out. But that can be really painful on the backside, right? Because you are staying up for hours and putting a lot of pressure on your team that they didn't necessarily sign up for to try and meet these, meet client deadlines. One of the things I might have done differently if I had the capital up front, I would have probably hired leadership earlier, for sure. Right? Like I can see now,
Like, what type of leaderships? Like, what roles?
like in an ideal world, um, strategic, like strategy and operator roles, like at the highest level, right? Because for a long time, like we were hiring, like, again, more IC roles, and we were operating at that strategic role. And the truth is, like, we outgrew our own business. Like we were still learning as we were going. Like I was, my 20s when I started the company. And so it wasn't until I started having additional, like, higher level executives that I started to really understand the challenges, why we were having some of the challenges that we were, and how to fix those challenges. But I didn't know that back then. I didn't have the capital to hire them back then either, if I'm being really transparent.
Yeah. Well, I think it probably worked out for you, because here's what happened to me. I started hiring those people around the 5-year mark.
Hmm.
and they came from big agencies. So I thought that we could elevate to that bigger agency. But what I found was they were missing the one trait that is a non-negotiable for us is resourcefulness. And they expected a huge team to
Yeah.
support them to make them look good. And they were like me in college,
Such a
right? Like
good
you remember like
example.
those
Yes.
those group projects that you would do. Well, I was always the
Yeah.
first one to be the project manager because I was sneaky. I would delegate all the work, but I would take all the credit.
I know.
And that's how they
We have
were.
hired
And
many
I
of
was like, this
those.
is
It is
awful.
definitely a delicate balance when you're hiring leadership, um, for what you need and what is like, if you're a $1 million agency, you don't, even if you can get someone who's been running $100 million agency, that is probably not the right fit, just for all the reasons that you're saying. But you don't know that.
They're going to
You
break it.
think like, oh
Yeah,
my
you're
God,
going to
this is
break.
an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And we've learned that lesson a few times actually, in the hard way usually. And finding that balance is important. But I think another big lesson I had to learn was like the difference between a manager and like a truly an executive, and like where those roles split and what each of them is really good at. I usually think about that between like evolution and revolution. So that's a
So what do you think the biggest difference between those two roles are? Because I could tell you I am the worst manager, and probably you might be too, because I don't have
yeah.
time to babysit anybody. Like I give you an
Yes,
outcome, I
I
expect a
understand.
result.
The way that I think about it, kind of like at the highest level, is managers are great at evolution. So evolving existing processes, managing people through those processes, making them incrementally better,
Yes.
and that makes a great manager. The executive should be more revolution, right? So, hey, you have a process that works, but like, here's a totally different process, a new way of thinking about that. Here's something that here's a new product line, or here's something that doesn't exist today that we should think about and explore. And they also know how to implement those kinds of things. I would say that's kind of the two differences in the path from what I've learned.
Yeah, and I've learned on that too. The the leaders, if you have the right team members, the only thing I worried about was
Mm,
demotivating my team because I knew if I had the right team members, they were already motivated and I can give them outcomes. My job was to coach them to be better. Like I never did quarterly
nice.
reviews. I did coaching sessions where they would come in and I would be like, hey, we're on this track. You wanted to go here. So how can we get you there? And I always felt like as the leader, I was working for them to make them better rather than the reverse side. And when I did that, the culture shifted too, because like when, I started my agency at 22 and like
Yeah.
you, I didn't know anything. I was just like, you want to work for me? And then I'm like, I learned from like how my dad would manage people. And it was like, hey, you do
Yeah.
this, you
Same for
do it
me and
this
my
way.
dad too.
Like,
Yeah.
and it was very strict back then.
It's really funny.
Yeah. I want to talk about why you went from 200 down to the size you're at now. Because, and I also, well, actually, before we get there, there's probably a lot of people listening. And I'm just curious on why you guys did this. Where do you feel the no man's land is when you were in your agency at like the employee count? Because I felt like when people are
Mhm.
around 15 to 30, it's very challenging. And then when you get over that, it starts to get easier. Did you experience that too? Or is it still hard?
It's always hard. I would say that's a great way to think about it. I'm trying to level set to see if I would say that's the same numbers. But yeah, I think the hardest time is when you have a lot of people doing kind of a variety of different roles, right? Because when you're really small, it's one person doing all of the roles. And then when you're really big, everything is a lot more intentional and kind of like siloed, which is also easier. So it's when you have a lot of people wearing a lot of different hats that things get, I think, the most chaotic, because there's pieces of information living with, you know, different folks that may or may not be communicating well. There's balls getting kind of dropped because they are doing kind of a variety of different tasks. There's so much concept switching. Um, so I think you're probably right.
Look, your agency adapts for every client, right? Your builder should do the same. That's why Wix Studio is built for the way you actually create. AI-powered site mapping lets you get straight down to the design. Whether you shape things in Figma or start in Studio, your vision's coming to life quicker with no-code animations and built-in responsiveness. And for client growth that actually scale, you've got extendable business solutions and a dynamic CMS. Scale your agency at wixstudio.com. What was your decision to push through that as you were experienced like, holy cow, like I got all these people reporting to me. Like, I feel like I'm doing everybody's job. I can't work anymore. So why the hell would I want to double the size of the company? Like, what are you guys insane? Like, what made you go?
Yeah.
You say, like, that's how I felt. Like, I had to be insane to go that. And then I was like, oh, it actually
So
worked.
what you just said it resonates so much with me. Like, wow, I can't believe that worked. Which I feel like is such a great feeling. It's not as frequent as I would like, but it's also a very common feeling. And why did we push through? I think I knew we had a great product that a lot of people needed. Um, and I think we were getting the validation in the market that told me there's a real opportunity here. And that made it exciting. But I also, candidly, like I love to problem solve. I'm a very much like a process first leader. So I kind of believe that most things with the right processes and the right people, of course, but like can be resolved and scaled. And so I think kind of by nature, it excited me to be able to figure those pieces out, is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be
Yeah.
great. We have to love solving problems. Like I tell everybody that comes into the mastermind, the first day when we're onboarding them, I'm like, look, we will solve your biggest problem, but guess
Yeah.
what? That will create more problems. And then we're going to it's a
It's
cycle.
not
It's like, it's
not better, just
nonstop.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. We like, I like, well,
I like
I
some
like
better than
certain
others also.
problems. let's, right. Like, but I do like solving some problems. Some problems come up, you're like, and then you kind of question, you're like, why am I doing this business? Like it's not worth it. And then like something pulls you back in. It's kind of like golf or tennis. Like you hit 80 bad shots and you get one good shot and you're
It's
like,
true.
all right,
I
you
mean, I
sucked
think
me
we have a
back
certain
in.
proclivity as entrepreneurs though for that. I don't want to, I mean, for that pain kind of, and like being able to resolve it and feeling like that, I feel like that gives us great satisfaction.
All right. So cool. I want to go back now or go jump forward or I guess back. I don't know. I'm dyslexic. So whoever knows, we're jumping to something 200 people down to where you're
Yep.
at now.
All
Why?
right. So we have around
Why and how?
75 people today, down from close to 200 around 2022, 2023. Why? Because it was expensive. But also because the reason we ended up that bloated was not for, we ended up hiring that many people for the wrong reasons, I would say, in a lot of cases. Because we had a huge surge in demand in 2021, 2022. We were just trying to keep up and throwing bodies at problems. And we thought that that was the right way to solve the problem. Or even if we didn't think that was the right way, we didn't see another way to solve it at the time. So we ended up with a whole lot of people. And the reason that that didn't make sense, well, first of all, it doesn't, like economically, it doesn't scale very well. Um, so that's problem number one. And number two, like when you have that many people, you start to see where there's a lot of redundancy, I guess, and almost like a lack of productivity because, oh, well, this person is going to do this very finite piece of this task. So I don't need to do that. And then this person is going to do this piece and so on. And you end up having a lot of people kind of touching similar pieces without anyone having a lot of ownership. And that, yeah, it's a lot like
It's like
Office
Office
Space.
Space.
And so we knew we needed to kind of right size. And in full transparency, we did maybe 2 rounds of layoffs many years ago, kind of during that transition. Um, and then we probably got down to maybe like 130. But like also some of that was attrition. We hired 100 people inside 1 year. So like a lot of those people just weren't the right fit for a variety of different reasons, left on their own, you know, moved out. And then once we got to around 130, we knew that okay, this is more sustainable, but there's still a lot of opportunities for efficiency. And we really took a big bet on technology to help us do that, which is a whole different can of problems. Like you said, not better, just different. But that was really how we were able to continue scaling revenue while scaling down headcount. And it was a pretty kind of like natural and organic shift over the last couple of years, where we were able to kind of right size folks. We moved some leadership roles down into back into IC roles, and had a lot of fear around that. But in a lot of cases, like that was what they preferred to do anyways, and they ended up being far more successful in that role. Like when we were growing pretty fast, like there were a lot of people who thought they wanted to be managers. They thought they wanted to manage people, and then they start doing it. Turns out it's not as fun as you think, um, which a lot of people learn the
You
hard way.
know,
And so
it
there was a
sucks.
lot of kind of like right sizing there. And then as people kind of transitioned out, we were able to use technology in a lot of cases to sort of create more capacity for the people that were still there, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm speaking broadly, but
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense because, as you're coaching your team, I would always tell them because I think the biggest mistake is always promoting your best designer or best developer to manage those people. Now, if they want to be on that track, perfect, but they may like before I would ever promote them, when I got smarter or wiser or older, I would have them dip their toe in that first before they get the promotion. Like, the natural leaders within your company because people come to them for problems without them having the title. And so I would look there first and go like, do you really want to go this track? That means you're not going to be designing as much, or you're not going to be programming or video editing or whatever it is. And they'd be
yeah,
like, well, let me try it out. And then if they didn't like it, I always said, look, it's not a failure to go back to what you want because we can keep elevating you as
yep.
a level
Yeah.
85
Yeah.
designer or whatever
That
it
was
is.
something, kind of the individual contributor versus manager path, leadership path wasn't even something we had in place until probably 2021. Um, and that was a big shift. Like what you're saying, it sounds so obvious to me now, but I didn't even realize that for a long time. Like I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah.
You
But
can't
that's
see it.
also,
You're in it.
sorry.
Like,
That's a great example of it's like,
no,
I
go
had
for it.
no idea. I never really I've worked for startups most of my life. Um, And it wasn't until I brought in someone with more experience at a higher level that was like, oh, this is actually how other companies do this. We should try that. And it clicks. But I didn't know that because I didn't have those people at the time. But that's a great example of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well,
I know.
we're all just figuring it out. Like, I always joke around and like, I remember my first client asking me to send him an invoice. I didn't know what an invoice
Our
was.
first client that ever signed us up was like, okay, we're ready to write you a check. And so we told him the name of the business. We took the check to the bank. We had no bank account, no actual business anywhere. And we told the bank, we're like, hey, can you cash this for us? And they're like, no, like we can't. This business, we have no idea if this is your business. And if it is, like, there's no record of it. Like so many things you don't know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and the agency started off being called Swank Technologies. So I would just like as I would deposit the check because it
Nice.
would just go to Jason Swank, and
Nice.
some of the first ones actually
Lucky.
passed. Like they went in my bank account, but then one time it did get
Yeah.
flagged. I was like, oh, okay, I got to do a business, and then they were like, oh,
Uh,
and at the end of the year, you got to pay
s-
taxes. I'm like, what's that?
so many things.
Like it was just, and
Nothing.
nothing I learned in school
Yeah.
because
I
I was the
remember the
one
year one,
delegating.
like I was just writing, I was like, okay, I got to pay employees, just going to write them a check, didn't withhold taxes, didn't make payroll, like no idea about any of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Were
yes.
you
So it
in
was a
California at that
very
time?
early, painful learning lesson,
Oh,
and like, probably within 6 months we sort of sorted it out, but I didn't know any of that. Like, I didn't even know what payroll taxes were back then. Very unfortunate learning experience, also.
yeah. Well, you want extra
I
abuse
know.
being in California with taxes,
Yes.
especially with the layoffs. Oh
California
my
is
gosh, I could only
a
imagine.
challenge to work within. I agree with you. Yeah.
Beautiful
Yes.
weather.
Yes.
That's
Also,
why
our
you do it.
industry is very much here, so that helps with, yeah.
Oh, it's cool. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience listening in that would
I
help
would
them out?
say if you like, it's all the cliches, right? If you don't find yourself crying in the shower, not wanting to go to work, like you're probably not pushing hard enough. That is a very normal feeling. It is hard. I am not like minimizing it, but it is real and it is normal, and like that is part of it. And I would say the most important thing you can do is talk to other founders, other agency owners. One time I wanted to start a support group for agency owners, because if it can it can feel really lonely. And I know it's true, and I know there's a lot more awareness around it, but talking to other people who are going through similar things always helps.
The funny thing is, when I got into this business by accident after I sold, and I was like, man, I just want
Yeah.
to be a resource I wish I had. And because I never had anybody to talk to, and the people I talked to, because my agency was in
Mhm.
Atlanta, and that was a big market when we were doing it, and everybody I would talk to that owned an agency, we were all lying to each other, right? And so it was really weird, especially back then, because we'd be like, how many employees
Yeah,
you
I
have? And
know.
we'd be like, right, like we'd muscle up and right, or how much
Yeah.
dumbass media spend that you would pass
What
through
award
and,
did you
and cost
get?
that as revenue. And
Yeah.
so
Don't
yeah,
even get
oh, the paid awards.
which
The
one.
only award I ever cared about
Yep,
was the best
that's
place
true.
to
We
work
got
because you
one of
couldn't
those.
fake it,
Yeah. But
right? Yeah,
go ahead.
exactly. And
The other awards.
no, and it was lonely as hell. And a lot of times when I get all these agency owners together to talk,
Yeah.
it is like a support group for some of them. Sometimes, like they'll just show up and be like, "All right, good, y'all
It's
are
so
fucked up way
true.
more than I
It's
am."
so true. The problem is like in social settings, people don't share those pieces usually. There's a lot of bravado and a lot of exactly how many employees you have, how many awards you've won. And like I know firsthand, like those things don't matter nearly as much as people think, right? Like these can be really screwed up in the back end and you can still be getting all of those things. Yeah.
Well, believe me, I've seen it. Like they've come to me for help, and like from the outside, they look like that calm duck on the water, and then when we start looking underneath, I'm like, you're not profitable. Like there's what like you're over 8 figures.
Yeah.
How are you not profitable? Like oh, like they were just bloated, like you were saying, and then doing things just trying to
Yeah.
look good on
I know.
Instagram versus
It's
feel
not
good.
helpful to anyone. I don't even think it's helpful to them.
Nope, not at all. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Hope, for coming on the show. I know there's probably a lot more, so we'll probably have to have you back on the show. But for everyone listening, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you want a support group where other people understand what you're going through and a shoulder to cry on, but all joking aside, really be able to see the things you might not be able to see and help and really kind of push you and be around the people that you want to be around, go check us out at agencymaster.io. We're a small group. We're always looking for great new members that are, resourceful, like to share, honest, and just cool people. So go do that. And until next time, have a swank day.